Good morning and welcome back to Coaching Conversations. I'm Maria Sabia.
And I'm Lourdes Labor. Stick around to the end for some ridiculously simple practices to keep you grounded, even when your ego wants to wear a crown. Today, we're talking about a quiet but powerful force that can corrupt us from the inside out: status.
Yeah, no, so let's just start with a scenario, right? You get this big promotion. You've been working for it to get the promotion for years, right? The title, the corner office, the power. It all feels incredible. But slowly something shifts. You start to listen to your team less, become more impatient with them. You become impatient with the people that you once respected and collaborated with, and your ideas seem more important than anyone else's. You don't even notice it's happening, but the relationships that you once had are no longer as strong as they were. They're suffering, and you're less effective than you used to be.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen this, right? The friend who gets a little fame and suddenly loses their humility, or the leader who becomes so disconnected they forget what it's like to be on the ground. It's like their persona has been dyed in gold, and they can no longer see the world clearly or their place in it.
Right. And so that's what we're talking about today. This is what the episode is about. Not letting success turn you into a diva with a to-do list. The subtle, corrosive process of becoming corrupted by power or, feeling entitled. This episode's for anyone in a position of authority, for the person striving for success, or for anyone who's ever felt their own ego getting in the way of their integrity.
Yeah, and this is for you if you want to succeed without sacrificing your soul, and if you're ready to learn how to lead with humility and a clear conscience. So, why why does this happen? Why do we let success and status change us for the worse? Well, because our ego likes to chase external validation, right? The ego whispers, this title, this fame, this power, this is what makes you worthy. We've also seen that in like kind of status symbol items, whether it's the car or the house or the whatever, luxury item, right? But really, this tie into feeling your worthiness is tied to the thing, the external. It's a protective lie. It's not about the success itself or the status item. It's about the feeling of importance that we attach to it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. We start out wanting to do meaningful work, but the minute we get a little status, our brain goes, more please. And this is that dopamine loop. Every like, every compliment, it just gives you that little boost, right?
Yeah, enter the hedonic treadmill. You get the title, and 2 weeks later, you're wondering why nobody bows when you walk by the printer. The brain's default mode network kicks in, and ruminating about what others think. Confirmation bias makes you only see the praise, so you inflate like a balloon, and then boom, ego overload.
Yeah, I work with a lot of people in sales and, some regular salespeople, which I used to be, and a lot of managers. And I had this one client who had gotten a promotion from being a salesperson to now being the manager. And he was really getting frustrated because his team wasn't innovating. But when we started to ask questions and dig a little deeper, he had the same situation. He had that problem where they weren't communicating with him the way they had been when he was speaking to them at the same level and with the same, confidence and respect that he had for them then. And this lack of receptiveness that he had become so invested in his own vision that he dismissed their criticism and their input, thinking that his title gave him wisdom because now he had the backing of his bosses. And he was so busy being the new, sales manager boss that he stopped being a leader. And, through the sessions that we had, he was able to realize that the title was great, but his vision was greater.
Hmm. Yeah, this sometimes happens, in communities as people step up to maybe volunteer on a board or something.
Hmm.
They get an inflated sense of themselves and start behaving differently, seeing themselves as like, kind of
Yeah.
self-important. And it changes, their energy changes, and what they're rippling out to the people that they're working with completely shifts. And
Hmm.
this can be seen in our personal lives too. It's likely everyone has experienced some version of this, either themselves or with a friend or family member. You get a promotion and suddenly you're too busy for old friends. You get a little recognition and you stop being tolerant of frank criticism. The false narrative goes like this: the higher you climb, the less you need to listen. But the truth is, the higher you climb, the more you need to listen.
Right. And, I think that we all, in the relationships, we see that dynamic in couples when whoever's managing the money seems to think that they have more say because they think that they have more power. They forget that the relationship is the most important thing, and respecting each other instead of, who's bringing in more money. But, that's the illusion. We think power gives us permission to stop being a student, stop being humble, stop respecting the other person. But humility is not a weakness, it's a superpower. It's the ultimate act of strength. So we want to dig a little deeper into this. What's really behind this tendency to become corrupted by power or by, become ego driven? It's more than just a desire for the corner office or a fancy title or anything else, any accolades. At the core, it's a profound fear, a fear that if we don't maintain our status, we'll lose our security. A fear that if we admit a mistake, we'll be seen as, less than. And we're trying to compensate for a deep-seated feeling of inadequacy by dominating every situation.
Yeah, I mean, you think the pain is from the hard thing itself, from the
Mhm.
challenge, from the criticism, but the real pain is from the story and meaning you've
Mhm.
attached to it. It sounds something like this: I'm a leader now, so I must have all the answers. Or if I don't, it means I'm a fraud, right? So cue imposter syndrome. Or if I admit I was wrong, people won't respect me. Your identity becomes so intertwined with your external achievements that any threat to those achievements feels like a threat to who you are.
Mhm.
So the real pain is this: when you attach your value to power, you become fragile, because anything that threatens your title or status feels like it threatens you. And that's why Marcus Aurelius warned: stay simple, stay kind, stay useful.
Yeah, and that's a core misunderstanding of the issue. You're trying to satisfy an external or You're trying to satisfy an internal need for security by controlling an external event. But that's never going to work. It's like, trying to make your reflection smile first. You're so focused on the external image, the title, the respect, the power, that you're missing the fact that the real change has to happen inside you. You can't force the world to respect you if you don't respect yourself. True self-worth isn't found in a job title or a compliment or a million likes. It's found in knowing you're doing your best and being a person of integrity.
Yes. And that's the real trap. You believe that if you control the outside, you'll find peace on the inside. You spend your life
Yeah.
trying to win arguments, gain status, and prove your worth to everyone else. But every time you do, that hole inside of you gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's an endless, unfulfilling pursuit. And what you're actually craving isn't power, it's integrity. It's not dominance, it's inner peace. And those only come when you're willing to prioritize character over status and truth over ego. It's a choice to stop chasing the reflection and start cultivating the real thing.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder why somebody is so successful, yet they're so unhappy. Well, that hole that Lourdes just mentioned, that's why. Because that hole, that emptiness just keeps getting bigger when you don't feed your integrity, right? When you're seeking that external power. And, this really all goes back to what could be called a fundamental constraint, this unconscious belief that your safety is tied to being right, being powerful, or being flawless. It's really deep seated. It's deep seated programming running in the background.
Yeah, it's like a computer virus, right? You don't even know you have it. It tells you that if you're not the best, if you're not in charge, you're in danger. And it makes you see every conversation, every criticism, every moment of vulnerability as a threat. But the program is flawed. The reality is your true power is in your character, not your control.
I really like that analogy with the with the virus. I think that's just so, I don't know, spot on, as they say.
Mm.
But it isn't about being weak or a pushover. This is about true strength. The person who can calmly receive criticism, who can admit they were wrong, who doesn't need to dominate the conversation, that person's not fragile. That person is unshakable. They're not getting their self worth from external praise. They're getting it from an internal source.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between knowing your value and worthiness and trying to prove it constantly,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's a different kind of power. It's the power of authenticity. We've all been in a room with a truly humble, kind leader, and they don't have to announce their authority. You feel it in their presence. They don't have to prove their worth because they already know it. And that's the kind of power that truly changes people and inspires loyalty.
Yeah. The arrogant, overbearing leader who is angry, insecure, and controlling is actually living in a state of existential bad faith. They're denying their own freedom to choose virtue and instead becoming a slave to their own ego. They're trying to be something they're not. And the effort of maintaining that illusion, it's exhausting.
Yeah, as Carol Dweck says, don't be a slave to praise. right? It's a lonely way to live. You build this fortress of power and status, and you end up isolating yourself from the very people you want to impress. And true connection and genuine relationships can only flourish in the soil of humility. And this is the difference between a life of constant performance and a
Mhm.
life of authentic presence.
Yeah. So I want to give you an additional metaphor to really drive this home. You can't straighten a crooked fence post by pulling on the shadow it casts. The shadow, the way people see you, the respect you think you're getting, it's a reflection of the post itself, your core character. You can pull on the shadow all day long, trying to control it, and the post will still be crooked. The only way to get a straight shadow is to work on the post itself.
Yeah, and this reminds me of something that happens with leadership often, that people think that they're garnering the respect of others, but really it's fear, right? It's the fear of that leader and their ego driven behavior. So ultimately the choice is yours. Are you going to continue to chase the reflection of power, or are you going to cultivate the real thing? Are you going to be a slave to your ego, or are you going to become a master of your own character? The only way out of the trap is to recognize that your greatest strength isn't in what you control, but in who you choose to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's really profound what you've just said. It isn't what you control, but who you choose to be. That's the focus, right? I want to just a little bit of, the science, the brain science, really quick. When we get that status or power, our brain gets a little dopamine hit. And, dopamine is a feel good chemical. This reinforces the behavior, making us just want a little bit more. It's a quick, addictive high, but it really isn't sustainable. It's like you can eat a million cookies and you're never going to be satisfied, right?
but but there's a deeper, more lasting reward, right? The peace that comes from genuine connection and helping others. So no empty calories. And the Stoics do this, right? The more we choose humility over pride, the more that we strengthen a new, more peaceful neural pathway. That's how it works. We strengthen the neural pathway. It's an exercise in neuroplasticity.
Yeah, the first time that new road, it's going to be bumpy and feel unnatural, but the more you travel it, the smoother it gets, and that's how that's how habits of patience and resilience are built, step by step, breath by breath.
One moment at a time. And
Right.
so, how do we turn this insight into action? Here's the integrity check, your 4-point practice. Stop and feel. Before you speak, stop for a couple of seconds. Notice, what does maybe pride feel like in your body? Acknowledge it without judgment, and challenge the narrative. Ask yourself, am I trying to be right, or am I trying to find the truth? And separate the facts from the fiction that your mind is creating.
Right. And then find a mentor, find a person in your life who embodies the virtues of humility and grace, and study them, learn from them. And if you don't have someone in your inner circle, then start reading, biographies and learn about character and character building. And then embrace the new action. What is one small, tangible, and humble action you can take right now? Like ask a team member for their opinion, apologize for a mistake, or offer a genuine compliment. The truth is, power is a stop sign for you. It's an invitation to pause and realize that you can't control them. You can only control yourself. And when you drop the anger, you stop being an obstacle and you become a light that helps them find a better way.
Yes. And so we'll leave you with this bit of wisdom from our soon to be released book, A Path to Resilience, Small Steps to an Unshakable You. The real harvest at the end of your life is how you lived, with reverence, with care for others, and with authenticity that isn't for sale.
So here's your challenge. What's one situation you're going to practice an integrity check this week? If you can, drop it in the comments.
Thanks so much for being here. We're walking this path right alongside you. Take care of your heart. Take care of your mind. Take care of yourself. And if you found this helpful, support our work by liking, following, subscribing, and sharing this episode with someone who needs a reminder that they're stronger than they think they are. We'll see you next time.